Lately, Kim Kardashian's story has become harder to describe with one simple label. For some people, she is still a reality television star who became famous because of scandal, family connections, and the rise of tabloid culture. For others, she is one of the clearest examples of modern business power. A woman who learned how attention works and turned that attention into companies, influence, and long-term cultural control. The strange part is that both views are part of the same story. Kim Kardashian did not enter public life in the way traditional stars usually do. She was not introduced as a singer with a debut album, an actress with a breakout film, or an athlete with a record-breaking performance. Her rise came from a different kind of fame, one that many people dismissed at first because it did not look serious. But that is exactly why her story matters. Kim became powerful during a period when the meaning of celebrity was changing. Television was changing. Social media was rising. Paparazzi culture was aggressive. Reality television was becoming more influential. And the internet was beginning to reward people who could turn their private lives into public attention. Kim understood that shift earlier than most. She was born in Los Angeles in 1980, into a family that already had access to celebrity circles. Her father, Robert Kardashian, was known publicly because of his role in the O.J. Simpson trial. Her mother, Kris Jenner, would later become one of the most important managers in modern entertainment. So Kim did not come from nowhere. She grew up close to the world of fame, wealth, image, and public attention. But being close to fame is not the same as controlling it. Before she became a global name, Kim was often seen in the background of other people's celebrity stories. One of the most important examples was her connection to Paris Hilton. In the mid-2000s, Paris represented a new type of fame: rich, photographed, controversial, fashionable, and constantly followed. Kim worked around that world as a stylist and closet organizer. She was not yet the center of attention, but she was close enough to study how attention moved. That period was important because Kim learned something many people underestimated. Fame was no longer only about talent in the traditional sense. It was about visibility. It was about being photographed. It was about being discussed. It was about turning lifestyle into public curiosity. Paris Hilton had shown how powerful that could be. Kim would later take that same logic and build something far more controlled from it. Then came the scandal that changed everything. In 2007, a private tape involving Kim and Ray J was released. It became one of the defining public moments of her early career. At the time, many people believed that kind of scandal would follow her permanently and limit whatever future she hoped to build. For critics, it became the easiest way to dismiss her. For the media, it became the hook that made her name impossible to ignore. But what happened next is the reason Kim's story became different. Instead of disappearing under the weight of the scandal, Kim and her family moved directly into visibility. Later that same year, Keeping Up with the Kardashians premiered on E! The show turned the Kardashian family into a weekly public experience. It brought viewers into their homes, arguments, relationships, businesses, jokes, and personal drama. At first, many people treated it as light entertainment. But over time, it became clear that the show was doing something bigger. It was not just documenting a family, it was building a brand in real time. Every family member became part of a larger machine. Every conflict created attention. Every relationship became a storyline. Every business move became more visible because the audience already felt connected to the people behind it. Kim was at the center of that machine. She did not have the loudest personality in every scene, but she had the clearest understanding of image. She knew how to be photographed. She knew how to make style feel like identity. She knew how to turn beauty, body, fashion, and personal life into conversation. And as social media grew, she became even more powerful because she no longer needed traditional media to reach the public. She could speak directly to the audience. That direct access changed everything. A celebrity with millions of followers is not only famous, they are a media company. They can promote products, shift trends, respond to criticism, control timing, and create demand without waiting for magazines or television networks to approve the message. Kim's power came from mastering that system. She understood that attention could be converted into business. The early Kardashian ventures included clothing stores, fragrances, endorsements, mobile apps, beauty products, and lifestyle branding. Some ventures were temporary, some were criticized, some faded, but each one helped prove the same point. Kim's public image could sell. Then the business became more serious. KKW Beauty gave Kim a stronger position in the beauty industry, but Skims became the clearest sign that her celebrity power had matured into business power. Launched in 2019, Skims entered the shapewear and loungewear market with a focus on fit, body variety, skin tone ranges, and strong visual branding. It was not sold only as clothing, it was sold as confidence, control, comfort, and body presentation. That made sense for Kim's brand. Her public image had always been tied to the body. Her curves had been praised, criticized, copied, mocked, and commercialized for years. Skims turned that long public conversation into a product line. It took something people had discussed about Kim for years and converted it into a business model. That is one of the strongest examples of how she operates. She does not only react to public attention, she studies it, she packages it, she turns it into something that can be sold. This is why Kim Kardashian cannot be discussed only as a reality star anymore. She represents a shift in power. In older Hollywood, public figures often needed studios, labels, networks, and gatekeepers to make them powerful. Kim came from a different system. Her power came from being visible enough, controversial enough, and consistent enough to become unavoidable. Then she used that visibility to build companies that gave her a different kind of legitimacy. Still, the criticism never disappeared. For many people, Kim represents everything shallow about modern fame. They see her as a symbol of influencer culture, image obsession, wealth inequality, beauty pressure, and the idea that being watched can become more profitable than traditional achievement. Her critics argue that she helped create a world where personal identity becomes a product, and every private moment can be turned into a marketing opportunity. That criticism has weight. Kim's influence on beauty standards has been enormous, and not always comfortable. Her image has shaped conversations around body modification, makeup, fashion, curves, luxury, and the pressure women feel to look polished at all times. She has also faced accusations of cultural appropriation, including controversies over hairstyles and the original kimono name for her shapewear brand before it was changed. But the reason Kim remains powerful is that backlash rarely ends her story. It usually becomes part of the next chapter. She has been criticized many times, yet she keeps adapting. When people dismissed her as famous for nothing, she became a businesswoman. When people dismissed her businesses as celebrity products, Skims became a major company. When people dismissed her as only an image, she moved into criminal justice reform and began presenting herself as someone trying to use fame for legal advocacy. That shift added a new layer to her public identity. Around 2018, Kim became involved in the case of Alice Marie Johnson, a woman serving a life sentence for a non-violent drug offense. Kim used her access to lobby for Johnson's release, including meeting with then-President Donald Trump. When Johnson's sentence was commuted, it changed how some people looked at Kim. It did not erase the criticism, but it showed that her fame could create real-world access. That is the contradiction at the center of Kim Kardashian's power. She is both a product of modern celebrity culture and one of its most skilled architects. She benefits from attention, but she also understands it better than many people who criticize her. She sells beauty, but also faces criticism for shaping beauty pressure. She is mocked as shallow, but has built businesses that serious investors now treat seriously. She is dismissed as a reality star, but she has lasted longer than many traditional celebrities who once looked more respectable. That is why her story keeps holding public attention. Kim Kardashian is not powerful because everyone loves her. She is powerful because people cannot stop placing meaning on her. Admiration, resentment, imitation, criticism, curiosity, all of it keeps her in the center, and that may be the clearest sign of her influence. She turned visibility into currency, controversy into reinvention, and personal branding into a business empire. Whether people see her as a pioneer or a symbol of everything wrong with fame, her public life shows how power works in the digital age, not by avoiding attention, but by learning how to own it. At some point, Kim Kardashian's power stopped being about whether people thought she deserved fame. It became about what she was able to do with it. That is the part many critics have struggled with for years. The argument that Kim was famous for being famous may have explained part of her early public image, but it no longer explains the size of what she built. Fame can open a door, but it does not automatically create a long-term empire. Many people become famous for a moment. Very few turn that moment into almost 2 decades of relevance, business expansion, cultural control, and financial power. Kim did that by understanding something basic about modern attention. People may mock what they are watching, but they are still watching. That became one of the foundations of her public strategy. She did not need everyone to admire her. She needed people to keep paying attention. The admiration helped. The criticism helped too. Even the jokes, the outrage, and the constant debates about whether she had talent all kept her name moving through the culture. But attention alone is unstable. It can disappear quickly. It can move to the next person. It can turn against you. So Kim's real shift came when she began converting attention into structures that could last beyond one viral moment. Businesses, product lines, partnerships, equity, fashion relationships, media deals, legal advocacy. Every new chapter added another layer to her public identity. That is why Skims became so important. Before Skims, Kim already had influence. She had reality television fame, beauty ventures, fragrances, endorsements, apps, and social media dominance. But Skims gave her something different. It gave her a serious business anchor. It allowed her to move from celebrity promotion into ownership and product control. The brand worked because it was closely connected to the public image Kim had carried for years. Her body had always been part of the conversation around her. It was praised, criticized, copied, exaggerated, and debated. Instead of running from that conversation, Skims turned it into a market. Shapewear, loungewear, underwear, and body-focused fashion became a way of transforming the same scrutiny she had lived under into a business model. That is the key to understanding Kim. She often turns criticism into infrastructure. If people talk about her body, she builds a bodywear brand. If people say she is only an image, she builds businesses that make the image profitable. If people say she has no influence beyond beauty and fame, she steps into criminal justice reform. If people say reality television is not serious, she uses reality television as the foundation for a family media empire. This does not mean every move is beyond criticism. In fact, much of Kim's power exists because the criticism never disappears. Skims has been praised for offering wider shade ranges, inclusive sizing, and strong product marketing, but it also exists inside a beauty culture that many people see as pressurizing. Kim's influence has helped shape modern ideas of the body, beauty, contouring, curves, luxury dressing, and extreme visual polish. For many women, that has been inspiring. For others, it has added to unrealistic expectations. That is where the contradiction sits. Kim sells confidence, but she also represents a world where image can feel exhausting. She promotes body inclusivity, but her own public image is still connected to a level of beauty maintenance most people cannot afford. She talks about discipline and business, but her wealth and access are also tied to privilege, family connections, and a media system that rewards constant visibility. That is why conversations about her never stay neutral. To her supporters, Kim is proof that a woman can be underestimated and still win. They see someone who took public humiliation and turned it into power. They see a businesswoman who studied the culture better than the people laughing at her. They see a mother, entrepreneur, media figure, and legal reform advocate who refused to remain trapped inside the public's first impression of her. To her critics, Kim represents a different kind of lesson. They see her as proof that modern fame can reward image over substance. They argue that her rise helped normalize the idea that the self can become a product, that private life can become content, and that beauty can be packaged into a constant performance. They see the Kardashian machine as one of the clearest examples of how capitalism absorbs identity, family, body, and even vulnerability. Both views explain part of her influence. Kim's power comes from the fact that she can sit inside both interpretations and still remain profitable. She does not need the public to agree about her. In some ways, disagreement keeps her relevant. The debate is part of the brand. The more people argue about whether she is a genius or a symptom of a broken culture, the more central she becomes to the culture itself. Her relationship with fashion shows this clearly. For years, Kim was treated by some people in high fashion as an outsider. She was famous, but not always respected. She had access, but not always approval. Over time, that changed. She became a regular presence at major fashion events, a Met Gala fixture, and someone designers could not easily ignore. Her style became part of the conversation, whether people liked it or not. That did not happen only because she wore expensive clothes. It happened because she understood visibility as performance. Every major look could become an event. Every red carpet could become a headline. Every controversy could extend the conversation. Her 2014 paper magazine cover, often described through the phrase "break the internet," became one of the clearest examples of how Kim could turn one image into a cultural moment. People debated whether it was art, objectification, empowerment, or attention-seeking. But again, the debate was the point. The Marilyn Monroe dress at the 2022 Met Gala worked in a similar way. Some people saw it as a major fashion moment. Others criticized it as disrespectful to fashion history and conservation. But either way, it placed Kim at the center of a debate larger than a dress. It became about celebrity access, historical objects, body image, fashion preservation, and the limits of spectacle. That is how Kim's public life often works. A single appearance becomes a discussion about something bigger. Her personal life has followed the same pattern. Her relationships have never been treated as only private relationships. Her brief marriage to Chris Humphries became a cultural joke and a major reality television storyline. Her marriage to Kanye West became one of the most watched celebrity unions of its time, partly because it brought together two people who understood fame, image, fashion, and public performance in very different ways. With Kanye, Kim entered another level of cultural attention. The marriage connected her more deeply to fashion, music, and the high art side of celebrity spectacle. It also exposed her to another kind of public instability. Their relationship, their children, their public appearances, and later their divorce became part of a wider discussion about family, mental health, co-parenting, control, and the difficulty of living private pain in public. That period added emotional complexity to Kim's image. For some people, it made her more sympathetic. She was no longer only seen as someone managing fame from a distance. She was seen as a woman trying to protect her children, manage a public separation, and continue building a business empire, while her private life remained under constant attention. But again, the public reaction was divided. Some praised her restraint. Others accused her of using every part of her life as content. That is the difficult position Kim has built for herself. Because her brand was created through visibility, people often struggle to believe that any part of her life is fully separate from strategy. That suspicion follows her even into activism. Her work around criminal justice reform gave her a new kind of seriousness. The Alice Marie Johnson case showed that Kim's access could produce real results. She used her platform, her connections, and her media power to bring attention to a woman's sentence and help push for clemency. That was not a small thing. It showed that celebrity influence could be used outside entertainment. But even there, the criticism continued. Some people questioned whether the advocacy was sincere. Others felt that even if her motives were mixed, the results still mattered. That debate revealed another part of Kim's public challenge. When someone is known for branding, even good work can be interpreted through suspicion. Still, the legal reform chapter changed her story. It allowed her to move beyond beauty, fashion, and reality television. It gave her a way to speak about justice, law, policy, and second chances. Her decision to pursue legal studies, including the baby bar and later bar exam attempts, also showed a willingness to be seen trying and failing in public. For someone whose brand is usually built around polish, that mattered. It made her look more human to some people. But it also gave critics more material. Every exam attempt, every update, every legal ambition became part of the same argument about whether Kim was serious or simply rebranding herself again. That is the problem when a person's public identity is built on reinvention. Even sincere change can look like strategy. This is where Kim Kardashian's story becomes larger than Kim Kardashian. She represents the modern question of whether fame can become legitimacy. Can attention become authority? Can visibility become business power? Can a reality star become a legal advocate? Can a person who was once mocked as shallow become one of the most successful entrepreneurs of her generation? Kim's answer has been to keep moving until the question becomes outdated. She does not always convince everyone. She may never convince everyone. But she continues to build in ways that force people to update the conversation. At each stage, the criticism follows her, but so does the expansion. That is why she remains so culturally powerful. She has built a system where attention, backlash, aspiration, beauty, family, business, and controversy all feed into each other. She does not need to escape criticism because the criticism has become part of the machine. What matters is that the machine keeps moving. And for nearly 2 decades it has. Kim Kardashian's power is not only that she became famous, it is that she learned how to make fame work after the public had already decided what she was supposed to be. She took the role people gave her, reshaped it, monetized it, defended it, expanded it, and then used it to enter rooms that once seemed far outside the world of reality television. That is why the story is still not finished. Because Kim's public life keeps asking the same uncomfortable question. If someone can turn attention into influence, influence into business, and business into power, does it still matter how the attention began? In the end, Kim Kardashian's public power is difficult to judge because it is not built on one thing. It is not only beauty, it is not only reality television, it is not only family branding, it is not only business. It is the way all of those things have been connected, repeated, monetized, criticized, defended, and expanded over nearly 2 decades. That is why her story still holds attention. Kim did not simply become famous and stay famous by chance. She built a system around visibility. She understood that modern fame was no longer controlled only by film studios, record labels, magazines, or television networks. It was moving toward direct access. Phones, Instagram, reality television, viral images, personal confession, constant visibility, and Kim became one of the clearest faces of that change. For her supporters, this is where the respect comes from. They see someone who was mocked for years and still managed to build one of the most successful personal brands in the world. They see a woman who took a scandal that could have ended her public life and turned it into a career, then turned that career into companies, and then turned those companies into serious wealth. From that view, Kim Kardashian is not just a celebrity, she is a strategist. She studied the culture around her and learned how to survive inside it better than most people. When people reduced her to her body, she built businesses around beauty, shape, and presentation. When people dismissed her as a reality star, she expanded into fashion, tech, beauty, shapewear, and law reform. When people said her fame had no substance, she found ways to attach that fame to real institutions, from major investors to political access. That is why her defenders often describe her as underestimated, because the public kept expecting her to disappear, and she kept finding another way to become relevant. But the criticism around Kim is just as important to the story. To her critics, she represents the side of modern fame that feels uncomfortable. The idea that everything can become content. The body can become a product. Family can become a brand. Private relationships can become public storylines. Pain can become marketing. Visibility can become currency. And when that system becomes powerful enough, it can start shaping how millions of people think about beauty, success, wealth, and self-worth. That criticism cannot simply be ignored. Kim's influence has not been neutral. Her image helped shape a beauty era built around extreme polish, body modification, contouring, luxury aesthetics, and constant presentation. Even when Skims promotes inclusivity in sizing and skin tones, Kim herself still represents a level of beauty maintenance that many people find unrealistic or exhausting. That contradiction is part of her legacy. She can sell comfort while representing pressure. She can promote inclusivity while standing at the center of an elite beauty system. She can present herself as relatable while living a life almost no one can access. She can speak about justice reform while also being one of the clearest symbols of extreme wealth and celebrity privilege. That is why the public never fully agrees on her. Kim Kardashian is admired and criticized for the same reason. She understands power in the attention economy. For some people, that makes her brilliant. For others, it makes her dangerous. She has shown that if a person can control the story around themselves, they can turn public attention into money, access, and influence. But that kind of control comes with a cost. The first cost is privacy. Kim's life has been public for so long that the line between her personal identity and her brand has become almost impossible to separate. Her marriages, pregnancies, friendships, fashion choices, arguments, business launches, legal ambitions, and parenting choices have all been folded into the public version of her. Even when she wants privacy, the public is already trained to see her life as part of a larger story. That is the trap of the Kardashian model. It creates power through access, but once the access becomes normal, the audience begins to expect it. The public wants the next episode, the next post, the next relationship update, the next business launch, the next emotional reveal. The machine that made Kim powerful also keeps demanding more from her. The second cost is credibility. Kim has spent years trying to be taken seriously outside reality television. In business, she has largely achieved that. Skims gave her a level of commercial legitimacy critics could not easily dismiss. But in other areas, especially law and activism, the public remains more divided. Some people see her legal work as sincere and important. Others see it as another rebrand, another way to add seriousness to a celebrity image. That is the burden of being known as a master of branding. Even sincere moves can look calculated. Her criminal justice work shows this clearly. Her involvement in Alice Marie Johnson's clemency was a real moment with real consequences. A woman who had been serving a life sentence was released, and Kim's celebrity access helped bring attention to the case. That cannot be dismissed as meaningless. But because Kim is Kim, some people still question the motive, the depth, and the long-term commitment behind the work. That is part of the larger tension. In modern celebrity culture, public figures are often told to use their platforms for good. But when they do, the public questions whether the good is genuine or performative. Kim sits right in the middle of that debate. She has enough influence to open doors, but her influence comes from a fame system many people already distrust. The third cost is public suspicion. Because Kim has built so much through image, people often assume every move is strategic. A red carpet appearance is not just a red carpet appearance, it is a statement. A relationship is not just a relationship, it is a storyline. A business launch is not just a product, it is a brand extension. A legal journey is not just education, it is an evolution arc. That may not always be fair, but it is the natural result of a career built around controlled visibility. Kim has trained the audience to look for meaning in everything she does. So now, even ordinary choices are interpreted through strategy. That is a powerful position, but also a difficult one. It means she can rarely be seen as accidental, ordinary, or separate from the brand. Still, the lasting significance of Kim Kardashian is not only about whether people like her. It is about what her rise says about the culture that made her possible. Kim became famous in a world that claimed to dislike her kind of fame, while rewarding it every step of the way. People mocked the show, but watched it, criticized the photos, but shared them, complained about the family, but kept them trending, dismissed the products, but bought into the aesthetic. The public often positioned itself above Kardashian culture while continuing to feed it. That is why blaming Kim alone misses the point. She did not create the attention economy by herself. She mastered it. The audience, the media, the platforms, the brands, and the critics all helped make her powerful. Every reaction became part of the same engine. That is where her legacy becomes larger than celebrity. Kim Kardashian represents a shift from old Hollywood fame to platform-era power. In old Hollywood, stars were mostly built by studios and protected by public relations systems. In Kim's era, fame became more direct, more personal, more visual, and more constant. The celebrity became the product, the platform, the advertisement, and the distribution channel all at once. Kim understood that early. She turned herself into a media ecosystem. That does not mean her influence has always been healthy. It does not mean every criticism is wrong. It does not mean her business success erases the beauty pressure, cultural appropriation debates, wealth criticism, or the uneasy feeling many people have about a family turning personal life into an empire. But it does mean her impact is real. And at this stage, denying her influence makes less sense than trying to understand it. Kim Kardashian's legacy will likely remain divided. Some will remember her as a pioneer of female entrepreneurship in the digital age, a woman who took public humiliation and converted it into control, a business figure who built serious companies from the raw material of fame, a celebrity who used her access to help bring attention to criminal justice cases that might otherwise have remained ignored. Others will remember her as a symbol of everything troubling about modern culture: the commodification of the self, the pressure to perform beauty, the replacement of privacy with content, the way wealth can turn criticism into another form of publicity, the way fame can become legitimacy, even when people are not sure it should. Both interpretations will probably survive, because Kim's story contains both ambition and excess, innovation and calculation, reinvention and spectacle, discipline and privilege, real business success, and a deep reliance on public attention. That is why she remains important, not because she is universally loved, not because every move is admirable, but because her life shows how power works now. In the digital age, attention is not just attention, it is leverage. It can become a product, a company, a political meeting, a fashion moment, a legal campaign, a billion-dollar valuation, or a public identity that becomes almost impossible to escape. Kim Kardashian saw that before many people wanted to admit it. And whether people admire her or reject what she represents, her story has already changed the way celebrity power is understood. She moved from the edge of another person's fame to the center of her own machine. She turned scandal into visibility, visibility into business, business into influence, and influence into a kind of cultural permanence. That is why the conversation around her continues. Kim Kardashian is not simply a famous woman people keep discussing. She is one of the clearest examples of how modern fame became modern power.